In the world of business, strategy is nothing without execution. And execution happens through one fundamental medium: verbal communication. Welcome to Chapter 5 of our Business Communication series. I'm your instructor, and today we'll master the art of verbal communication. While written communication provides the blueprint, verbal communication brings it to life. It's how leaders influence, how teams collaborate, and how organizations thrive. From boardroom negotiations to team huddles, verbal exchanges are the real-time medium that transforms ideas into action. By the end of this module, you'll understand the 5 key characteristics of verbal communication, master the principles of effective speaking, and develop advanced listening skills. We'll explore strategic communication approaches and provide you with practical techniques you can implement immediately in your management role. To leverage verbal communication effectively, you must first understand its inherent properties. Each characteristic presents both advantages and strategic challenges. Let's examine the 5 fundamental characteristics that define verbal communication in business contexts. First, synchronicity. Verbal communication occurs in real time, creating a dynamic loop where encoding and decoding happen simultaneously. For a manager in critical negotiations, this immediate feedback allows for agile strategy adjustment based on the shifting dynamics of the exchange. This synchronicity serves as an antidote to costly delays and misunderstandings that arise from asynchronous communication channels. Second, channel richness. Verbal communication transmits far more than just words. It includes tone, pitch, pace, volume, and nonverbal cues. The phrase, "I am confident in this team," can be a powerful affirmation, or a signal of doubt, depending entirely on how it's delivered. A manager's ability to interpret and control these multiple layers of information is essential for navigating ambiguity and conveying empathy. Third, transience. Spoken words are ephemeral. They exist only at the moment of occurrence unless formally recorded. This transience can foster candor in exploratory discussions, as participants feel less constrained by the permanence of their statements. However, skilled managers mitigate risks by documenting verbal agreements and key decisions with written summaries to ensure alignment. Fourth, interpersonal nature. In our digital world, direct verbal communication remains the primary mechanism for building trust. The act of speaking and listening directly to another person, dedicating undivided attention, forges psychological connections that text-based media cannot replicate. This relational function builds the social capital required for effective collaboration and organizational resilience. Fifth, immediate feedback. The continuous feedback loop allows for the co-creation of understanding between speaker and listener. A speaker can observe nonverbal cues like a furrowed brow indicating confusion and proactively clarify the message, transforming communication from a broadcast into a collaborative process. Effective verbal communication is not impromptu. It's a structured, principled discipline. 3 core principles govern its strategic application. Let's examine each principle and how it transforms casual conversation into strategic business communication. First, purposefulness. Every significant business communication must be guided by a clearly defined objective. Before initiating any verbal exchange, you should articulate the desired outcome. What should the audience know, feel, or do? This strategic intent transforms random conversation into purposeful business communication that drives results. Second, audience-centricity. Your message must be encoded for your specific audience. This is strategic empathy in action. This involves adapting vocabulary, context, and complexity to match your listener's frame of reference and knowledge level. Remember, the responsibility for ensuring your message is understood rests entirely with you, the speaker. Third, clarity and conciseness. Given the transient nature of speech, messages must be designed for cognitive efficiency. Formal verbal communications should follow a clear 3-part structure that guides listeners from curiosity to understanding to action. This structure creates a logical arc that maximizes coherence and impact, ensuring your message achieves its intended purpose. The selection of communication method is a strategic decision. For leaders, this involves understanding the principle of strategic presence. Napoleon Bonaparte observed that his presence at the theater was a great event if it occurred once yearly, but would be hardly noticed if he went daily. A leader who reserves personal intervention for truly strategic matters, major crises, strategy launches, significant achievements, magnifies their impact. Their presence signals this matters. It's a finite resource subject to the law of diminishing returns. Conversely, leaders who intervene in trivial daily matters risk diluting their influence, normalizing their authority when it's needed most. However, this principle applies primarily to senior executives. For frontline and mid-level managers, communication scarcity is not a virtue. For managers responsible for team performance, constant presence and availability are essential. Communication scarcity would be a dereliction of duty. Managers are high-presence conduits, responsible for frequent high-context communication required for guidance, coaching, and problem-solving. The chain of command serves as the primary architecture for verbal communication, ensuring efficient information flow. Employees communicate operational issues to their direct manager, who synthesizes, filters, and escalates only critical information upward. When this chain breaks and employees bypass managers, it creates unsustainable workload at the top, violating strategic presence principles. Beyond method selection, managers must adopt a strategic approach to communication volume and targeting. Two philosophies illustrate this choice: the machine gun approach versus the sniper approach, each with dramatically different outcomes for leadership effectiveness. The machine gun strategy broadcasts high-volume, low-specificity messages across multiple channels, hoping some will hit their target. This approach often emerges from poor planning or a reactive, need-to-be-seen communicating mindset. The consequences? Significant communication noise, audience fatigue, and the erosion of all message impact. The sniper strategy is characterized by high precision and low volume. Each communication is a carefully planned intervention. The sniper first defines a specific objective, analyzes the target audience, crafts a powerful message, and selects the perfect channel and timing. This approach requires more upfront strategic work but yields significantly higher return on communication effort. In our information-saturated environment, the sniper strategy isn't merely preferable. It's essential for effective leadership. It demonstrates respect for your audience's time, signals clear prioritization, and builds a reputation for purposeful, high-impact communication. An effective speaker orchestrates verbal and nonverbal elements to ensure messages are delivered with precision and power. Let's begin with paralanguage, the non-lexical components that can completely transform your message's meaning. Tone is the emotional quality of your voice. Watch how the same words convey different meanings. A manager must consciously modulate tone to match intent, projecting calm during crisis or warmth during recognition. Your tone sets the emotional context and can either escalate or de-escalate any situation. Pace and pauses control information flow. Strategic pauses are powerful rhetorical tools for emphasis and processing time. The rate of speech should match your content complexity. Slower for difficult concepts, varied to maintain engagement. Notice how pace affects your ability to process and retain information. Volume can be modulated to command attention or create intimacy, but it must always serve your strategic purpose. In large groups, volume commands attention. In one-on-one settings, softer volume creates intimacy and importance. Vocal variety through pitch changes is essential. Monotonous delivery disengages audiences, while clear articulation signals professionalism. Non-verbal elements are the physical signals that accompany speech. The principle of congruence is paramount here. Body language must align with and reinforce your verbal message. Incongruent messages appear insincere and undermine credibility. Eye contact establishes connection with your audience and conveys sincerity and credibility. In one-on-one conversations, maintain 60 to 70% eye contact. In group settings, distribute your gaze to include everyone. Avoid staring, which creates discomfort, but don't look away constantly, which signals discomfort or dishonesty. Purposeful gestures illustrate concepts and add energy to your delivery, but they must be intentional, not distracting. Effective gestures support your words. Avoid repetitive or nervous movements that draw attention away from your message. Use the space available to you, but ensure all movement serves a purpose in supporting your communication objectives. Upright, open posture signals confidence, authority, and executive presence. Your physical stance communicates before you speak. Facial expressions are your primary channel for communicating emotion. They must be congruent with your message content. Remember, your audience reads your nonverbal signals before processing your words. Make sure they're sending the right message. The human voice is an instrument. Like any instrument, its potential can only be realized through deliberate practice and refined technique. For managers, vocal mastery isn't about theatrical performance. It's about developing a flexible, reliable tool for influence that signals leadership and enhances credibility. Just as athletes train their bodies, professionals must train their voices. Unpracticed speech reveals anxiety and lack of confidence. High pitch, rapid pace, and filler words like and ah signal nervousness and undermine your authority. Deliberate practice builds vocal strength, control, and endurance, allowing you to remain effective even under pressure. Proper breathing is the foundation of vocal control. Breathe from your diaphragm, not your chest, for steady, supported speech. Try this. Place one hand on your chest, one on your stomach. Breathe so only the lower hand moves. This supports your voice. Vocal warm-ups before important communications prepare your instrument, just like athletes warm up before competition. Clear articulation ensures your message is understood. Practice tongue twisters and over-articulate during practice sessions. Red leather, yellow leather, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. Practice these daily to build articulation strength. Good articulation shows respect for your audience and ensures your ideas are received as intended. Beyond formal practice, several in-the-moment techniques can significantly improve your verbal delivery when it matters most. These subtle hacks can be implemented immediately to enhance your presence and effectiveness. Before important meetings, adopt a power pose for 2 minutes. Stand tall, hands on hips, chest open. Research shows this increases confidence and decreases stress, translating into more assured vocal delivery. The physical posture changes your mental state, which directly impacts your vocal confidence and authority. When asked a difficult question, take a slow sip of water. This creates a natural, acceptable pause for thoughtful response. This prevents rushed or defensive answers and gives you crucial seconds to formulate a thoughtful response. The key is making it appear natural while using the time strategically to improve your response quality. Vocal mirroring involves subtly matching the pace and volume of your conversation partner to build rapport. When done skillfully, this creates a feeling of being in sync without appearing to mimic or mock. If you find yourself rambling, simply say, "Let me rephrase that," or "What I mean is." This signals self-awareness and confidence. Listening is the co-equal and arguably more critical component of effective verbal communication. While speaking involves message transmission, listening encompasses reception, interpretation, and understanding. It's an active, cognitive process, not passive hearing. For managers, effective listening enables accurate problem diagnosis and builds trust. There's a crucial difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is automatic. Listening requires intentional cognitive effort. Hearing processes sound waves. Listening processes meaning, emotion, and intent. Only listening creates understanding. In managerial contexts, this distinction determines whether you truly understand your team's challenges and opportunities. A manager's effectiveness correlates directly with their listening ability. Great listeners make better decisions and build stronger teams. When employees feel truly heard, they share more information, take more risks, and demonstrate greater loyalty. Effective listening enhances decision-making quality by ensuring you have complete, accurate information before acting. A manager's effectiveness can be directly correlated with their ability to operate at the highest levels of this listening hierarchy. Let's examine each level and understand why only the highest levels create true leadership effectiveness. Ignoring represents the complete absence of listening effort. This signals disrespect and creates dangerous organizational blind spots. Pretend listening creates the appearance of attention without information processing, creating a dangerous illusion of alignment. Both levels damage trust, miss critical information, and signal to your team that their input doesn't matter. Selective listening filters messages to hear only what interests you or confirms pre-existing biases. This creates a significant barrier to learning and prevents you from understanding the full scope of issues and opportunities. Selective listeners often miss the most important information because it doesn't fit their expectations or preferences. Attentive listening focuses on explicit words to comprehend the literal message. This is the baseline for professional competence. Active or empathic listening is the highest level. This attends to explicit content, emotional subtext, and unspoken intent. At this level, true insight is generated. You understand not just what is said, but what is meant and felt. Active listening is a skill that can be developed through conscious practice of specific techniques that transform passive reception into active engagement. These techniques ensure you truly understand both the content and context of what's being communicated. Paraphrasing involves restating what you've heard in your own words. So what I'm hearing is, or, it sounds like you're saying. This technique serves two purposes. It confirms your understanding and demonstrates to the speaker that you're truly listening. When people feel accurately heard and understood, they open up more and share deeper, more valuable information. Clarifying questions dig deeper into meaning. Can you help me understand? Or what would that look like in practice? Emotional labeling acknowledges the feelings behind the words. You seem frustrated about this, or I can hear the excitement in your voice. This technique shows emotional intelligence and helps people feel understood at both rational and emotional levels. Summarizing captures key points and next steps. Let me make sure I understand the main issues and what we've agreed to do. Your non-verbal attention is equally important. Maintain appropriate eye contact, lean in slightly, and avoid distracting behaviors. Put away devices, face the speaker, and use encouraging nods and expressions to show you're fully present. Organizations that cultivate active listening cultures learn faster, innovate more effectively, and demonstrate greater resilience. For managers, mastering active listening is integral to being not just a better communicator, but a more effective leader overall. When leaders listen actively, they create environments where innovation thrives and problems are solved collaboratively. We've covered the essential elements of verbal communication mastery. Let's summarize the key takeaways that will transform your leadership effectiveness. Remember, verbal communication is how strategy becomes action, how culture is built, and how influence is exercised. Apply the sniper strategy to your communications: high precision, low volume. Use the three-part structure for formal presentations. Practice your vocal delivery daily, master your nonverbal congruence, and elevate your listening to the active, empathic level. Remember, your effectiveness as a leader is directly correlated with your ability to communicate verbally with precision and power. Your voice is your instrument of influence. Practice these techniques, apply these principles, and watch your leadership impact multiply. In the next module, we'll explore written communication strategies. Until then, practice active listening and strategic speaking every day. Thank you for your attention and commitment to communication excellence. Your teams and organizations will benefit from your enhanced verbal communication mastery.